Hello boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of MovieFile. This is episode 2 of my 100 movies in 100 days. Well, this movie that I'm doing today is basically a movie that's after my own heart. Yes, it's none other than Star Trek Into Darkness. Those of you who are new to the series don't know that Star Trek used to be a television show back in the early 70s, 80s basically. Also a cartoon animated series. Then they turned it to a series of motion pictures. It, had William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, George Takei, basically an all-star cast. In 2009, after a series of failed attempts to get the series back to fruition and get it back in the mainstream television and film, they decided to reboot the franchise. And who better to reboot it than Mr. J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams, like most of us, is a complete and utter nerd. And the great thing about being one, of course, is his attention to detail. He loves Star Trek. He has a huge fondness and love of the franchise, which helped him steer it back into prominence with 2009's Star Trek. The great thing is that he never actually touched the original source material. He actually went for more of a universe-altering, varied timeline, so that he made a point to make out that this is a different timeline. So with a different timeline, we get to see some new tricks, some new baddies, and some new experiences. The original movie received critical acclaim from Trekkies and moviegoers alike, giving Abrams a reason to pen a sequel and to get this movie all ready to go. So let's start on the story. At the beginning of the film, Kirk and McCoy are running for their lives from a civilization that wants to kill them, and Spock is in a volcano trying to stop the volcano from erupting. The two men call up the Enterprise in hopes to get themselves out of here and beamed out, while Spock is making progress at the volcano. The volcano is getting to the point where it's going to erupt, and Spock could end up dying. So Kirk and McCoy insist that they reveal themselves in order to get Spock out of the volcano. Spock says that'll be in violation of Prime Directive and just to let him die. Yeah, do you really want to kill yourself this early on? You want to write out Zachary Quinto? No? I'm glad that that wasn't actually the case, because they violated the Prime Directive and they saved Spock. But what Kirk doesn't know is that Spock actually put a report in stating all these facts about the fact that he saved the guy and basically dobbed him in like a small child. I'm telling on you. And because he decided to dob on Kirk, Kirk ends up getting his ship taken away from him as part of a closed door process. So he never attended anything, he never did anything, he never had a chance to speak up for himself. And Spock was reassigned to another ship. So Kirk's sitting there in the bar getting drunk while Admiral Pike offers him to be his first mate on his new ship. So due to this, Kirk accepts, and we feel that everybody's going to go on their way. So let me get this straight, you're going to break up the team and have this whole sense of urgency in terms of the crew and the Starfleet. Nobody knows what the hell's going on, and this is where the movie ends. Of course that's not how it ends, as Kirk is asked to attend a meeting in London to figure out and also to find a person named John Harris. Harrison has been responsible for blowing up several facilities that are actually owned by Starfleet, so I'll be pissed too, because just think about it, if someone's going out and blowing up my buildings, cost me a lot of money here, people. He managed to do this by persuading a father whose child was on her deathbed to go and do him a favour in exchange for his blood. We see this individual, being played by Noel Clarke, sacrifice himself and blow the facility up to Kingdom Come. So Kirk puts out a suggestion that if he's attacking that facility, what would stop this rogue Starfleet agent from actually attacking a Starfleet facility? And that's exactly what happens. Harrison comes in and basically destroys the entire facility with one fell swoop of a ship. We see Christopher Pike, the Admiral, lying there, near death, having a mind meld with Spock, and talking to Kirk to say goodbye. So from there, this becomes a tale of revenge. Kirk decides to go after this person, and go after him in the only way he knows how. Wait, this individual's in Klingon space. So Kirk has a conversation with the other head person in charge, played by Peter Weller.
Your move, creep.
Kirk pleads with the Starfleet Admiral to go after Harrison, but there's a problem. Harrison has made his way to Klingon space. So they have to make their way through the Klingon border in order to get to him. By doing this, they could be endangering their lives and the lives of everybody else that's associated with him. So Kirk decides to get the Enterprise and his crew in a mission to hunt this man down and kill him. Yes, you heard that right, ladies and gents. He's gonna go and kill the bastard. So stay tuned for more.
I shall leave you as you left me, as you left her, marooned for all eternity in the center of a dead planet. Buried alive, buried alive.
With that being done, Kirk decides to take a huge load of photon torpedoes, which he won't let Scotty have access to for some reason, and goes after the known criminal. Scotty kicks up a fuss the only way that Simon Pegg knows how to kick up a fuss, and that's by standing there flailing and screaming in Scottish, telling him that he needs to take a look at this and that it's morally wrong to have something in the ship that they have no idea about, but Kirk tells him to hush.
I just can't do it, Captain. I don't have the power!
Scotty then impassionately says that he'll quit if Kirk doesn't deal with the situation now, and Kirk accepts his resignation, and then that's the end of Scotty, basically. Kirk then makes Chekhov his new engineering officer, and they head out into deep space to go after Harrison. Spock then tells Kirk that all this is wrong and that they shouldn't be doing this, that they need to give this man a fair trial, so Kirk takes a landing party and then goes after the guy. As they get into Klingon space, they take the shuttle down and are immediately fired upon, because you know Klingons, they'll just fire upon anybody that gets in their way because you have no honour. Uhura tries to discuss with the Klingons and get them to see reason and to let this individual go, but instead is nearly strangled to death. Sounds like a plot for a really bad porn film. Klingons are immediately dispatched with by Harrison, who then reveals himself to the crew and offers his surrender. We then cut to a scene in the ship where Harrison explains who he is to Kirk, to the Doc, and also to Spock. But before that, we do have a funny moment where he's basically punching the guy, you know, going and you just got Harrison just standing there oblivious. Okay, take me in now. Let that be a lesson to you. Harrison then spills the beans that he's not who he seems to be, that he is a very, very old and powerful being named Khan. And that in the photon torpedoes that are loaded onto the Enterprise, there's something not quite right about them. He then talks about the Admiral, who he claims is corrupt and was willing to dispatch of his people unless he helped him design a new ship. Kirk then tests that theory and realises that Khan is right. The great thing about this scene, and the great thing generally about the character of Khan, is that he's been played mostly as an enigma. You don't know whose side he's on, you don't know if he's doing things for himself or he's doing things for others. You kind of don't understand if he's truly mad or if he's just desperate. And that's the great thing. That's the one thing that I can actually say that Benedict Cumberbatch did right. He managed to know who the character was and draw something new out of Khan, instead of basically playing him towards the way that he was done before. So as they research this and realise that Khan is right, Kirk is then hailed by a mysterious Starfleet ship. The ship has my favourite person in it, Mr. Peter Weller, who then just states to Kirk,
Your move, creep.
Okay, he doesn't actually say that. He just questions Kirk about what's happened to Harrison, or if he's in the brig, or if he's dead. And then Kirk basically spills the beans to the Admiral. Kirk then goes into warp speed and decides to head back to Earth in order to give Harrison a fair trial, or Khan a fair trial, whatever you want to call him. And then it is chased after by the Admiral, who's firing photon lasers at him, who has a ship that's basically ahead of its time. It's kind of next generation. Like, the ship persistently fires at the Enterprise, nearly destroying the ship, and it's warped. The ship's left in deep space as the Admiral states to Kirk that there is nowhere else to go. He then proceeds to fire until he was notified that his daughter is on the ship. Admiral then beams his daughter from the Enterprise and then insists on going after Kirk and destroying the Starship Enterprise as his plan originally intended. Before this can happen, the ship's functionality ends up being disarmed. The ship can't do anything, it can't fire anything, it can't move, it's basically crippled. We then find out that your favourite Scottish man and mine, Mr. Simon Pegg, aka Scotty, has stowed away on the ship in order to get himself to Kirk and the others on the Enterprise, but insists the guys need to beam him up before he's found out. Kirk then makes a deal with Khan to go after the Admiral in order to seek revenge and to stop this incident from turning into an all-out war. Khan does so and then betrays Kirk and Scotty in order to get his own revenge. There's a very funny scene where he's actually crushing Peter Weller's head like a grapefruit. He's like, no! What ensues afterwards is their attempt to apprehend Khan or kill him by blowing him up in the ship at first, or basically try to destroy him, but it seems that Khan himself is immortal and can't be destroyed, which makes him even more badass. Meanwhile on the ship, in order to get the warp reactor working, Kirk decides to risk his own life by going into the warp core. The fun thing about this is a nice little role reversal. There's a touching moment between Spock and Kirk where basically Spock shouts out the words Khan! Kirk lays there dying. So you think about this for a second. It's basically the Wrath of Khan all over again, but they've reversed it. So instead of Spock dying, it's Kirk. Awesome. And it brings out the whole time effect, the whole displacement with this alternate universe, that a decision that Spock would have made in the previous film, Kirk's decided to make the same decision. Kirk's basically risked his life and his ability to live on the fact that he wants to save his family, his crew. Spock then goes after Khan and decides to try and kill him once and for all in order to take revenge for Kirk. Beams down before that can happen and states to Spock that they need him alive because his blood can save Kirk. That'd be so cool. They could utilise his blood to resurrect people and, to put antidotes and stuff like that. I don't see why they didn't use it even more in this movie, but that would kind of make a whole load of superhuman Starfleet officers that would probably end up taking over the world. So as Khan is apprehended, they save Kirk, and Kirk sits there trying to talk to Spock, and they're calling each other friends and doing their lovey-dovey situation. You just want to sit there and get both of them and go, now kiss. Kirk pulls everybody together and says that they need to do this in honour of Admiral Pike, that they need to take the Starship Enterprise on a 5-year exploration in deep space and go where no man has gone before. Actually, he said no one, but the thing is, I don't understand how they've gone to say no one yet when there was a whole incident. It doesn't matter, it's a different universe. So now let's look at the acting ability. Basically, everybody in this film was on par. Everyone was like up here. And a lot of it had to do with the way that Khan was presented. The character was just so evil. He was such an enigma. You didn't know what his next move is. You didn't understand exactly what his motivation for doing this was, even though he would tell you that his motivation was because of his family, that he wanted to save them. He would keep switching sides and not leaving everybody guessing. It was an amazing job, and an amazing job done by Benedict Cumberbatch. I can't say more about this guy, and I think there's a bright future in films and television for him because of the fact that he was just so immersive. The inflections, the way he said his word, the ways he's expressed himself, even the word Khan sent shivers down my spine. And that led everybody else to up their game. Everybody that I felt in this movie pulled their character off so well. Zachary Quinto as Spock was another one. He showed an emotional side of Spock, something that we haven't actually seen since the first movie, so to speak. He was a kind of a tortured soul in the first movie over the death of his mother, but in this one, he was more trying to be that guy, that company guy, but then kind of changed the way he did things after that mind meld with Pike. And Chris Pine as Kirk, as always, he brings a new spin to Kirk. He's not the Shatner-esque Kirk. I know most people are probably sitting there when they first heard the recasting were like this: William Shatner deserves to play the young Kirk. Do your digital magic imagery thingy in order to get him in this role. Yours sincerely, some douchebag. But Pine brought something new to the role, as he always does. He shows that his character is evolving. Everybody does. They bring their characters out. They show that each of them has their own decisive moment that excels them from the rest. And let's go to the bad parts. There was not really a bad part in this movie. You know, the fact that you had Peter Weller in there, RoboCop, just made things even more awesome. And the big reveal of the villains, you got to see who both these guys were and what their means for doing it. You know, Weller's character wanted to stop a war from happening by creating one, by making sure that they had the best tech. Cumberbatch's Khan, he basically wanted to rule over everybody. You know, he had various reasons for doing what he did, and that's the greatest thing about this movie. It stood out, and quite clearly, if after watching anything else that comes out this year, this could be the movie of the year. And this is the second film in a franchise of movies that could set itself apart very, very easily from the original. It already has. It shows with the mix of characters, with a mix of acting, script writing, direction, that this movie has made itself stand out. So now we go down to the rating system. The rating system, as you know, we have 1 equals don't fucking see this movie, to 5 with me saying, you know, I highly promote this movie. And quite clearly this movie deserves a 5, because with everything about this movie, with every character, with every moment that happens, it just makes me want to watch it again and again. And I'm not the kind of guy who watches movies again and again unless there's something in it that gives me that investment. So there you go. Star Trek Into Darkness gets a 5 out of 5 from me, and that's pretty much it. If you're a Trek fan, go see this movie. If you're a film fan, go see this movie. If you're a sci-fi fan, go see this movie. If you're just anyone who's Joe Schmo in the street looking for something to do with his girlfriend, apart from making out in the movie theatre, go see this movie. Because I'll tell you right now, it's a movie that's a must-see for anybody. When the Blu-ray comes out, buy it. When the DVD comes out, buy it. Hell, if the carrier pigeon with this located on its foot comes out, buy it. And that's it from me today with Moviefile, so I will see you tomorrow where I'll be reviewing The Seventh Seal, and that will be movie number 3 in my 100 movies in 100 days, so I'll see you guys then. So live long and prosper.